Rouge will do very well. You meet a lot of people, and those people see you, and they say, geez, we're having a corporate party, a corporate event. These guys were great. And that's, that's fun.
Hey, welcome back to episode 2 of Unsung. I appreciate you all showing up, and I left my my next guest as a secret, but once again, it is a secret no longer, and it is Brian Cymbaluk. Brian, how the hell are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good, good. So we were talking a little bit about Rouge, about the new project, and so what's, just kind of fill us in.
Excited to get back to playing after almost a 2-year hiatus.
Do you feel, you got the energy behind it?
Got the energy.
Yeah.
It's been so nice to be, I'm doing a drum build, which is that drum kit that you see. I'm doing a drum build.
Yeah.
The excitement of doing the drum build, having the energy to do the drum build for the gig, playing, physically sitting down and going boom. Those Club Customs. Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah,
but you're getting them specially made.
Oh, they're done.
Yeah. Well, are they done?
Yeah.
Where are they?
In my studio.
Well, congratulations, because that's Yamaha, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hell of a kit.
I know.
Mean, yeah.
You kind of like Yamaha.
I'm jealous. No, it's a nice kit. That's a very nice kit.
The sound is unbelievable.
Yeah. So Rouge, what about Rouge?
Rouge marketing concept, as always. You know me, a marketer. And so I sit back and I look at the marketing of the concept of it, and I start doing that. We haven't had one rehearsal. I have 90% of the players picked and talked. We've already, it's like interviews, etc., but we haven't had a rehearsal yet. All veteran people, all great people, stellar people. It's the only thing to remain to be seen is the mesh there, the feel, the gel of the players.
The musical and the personal.
Yeah, it's like, is the hang a good hang?
Sure.
But I've had the chance to interview all the people, talk to all the people. They're all good people to hang.
And you feel good
in that capacity. So I think to me it's more of a band leader puts a band together.
Right. And you feel good about them first.
I feel great about them.
So they just need to feel good together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm excited because the energy's there, and yes, I'm excited to go do it. And that's coming up. First gig is already booked. It'll be middle of September.
Can I ask where? Or
as of yet, I'm going to keep that whatever.
Sure.
I'm already booking the band up starting September. I'll have the fall season booked up, hopefully before I know it.
Right.
But the marketing, the thrust is there. I started the marketing month and a half, 2 months ago. Yeah. There's already 550 members in our Facebook page group.
Right.
That have joined it, so there's already an audience of 550 people that when we do a gig, it'll be like, Rouge is playing, opening night, here you go.
And part of that had to come off the success of Suicide Blonde.
Yeah.
Some of those are Suicide Blonde people.
You know, the funny thing was, I could have easily changed the Suicide Band group on Facebook that had almost 1,500 members, and I said, no, I'm going to start from scratch. I want it to be all from scratch. And yes, so duplicity, some of those people would have come from knowing me from there.
Right. But this is an authentic,
brand new, complete thing. All the songs are, I'd say the songs are going to be 80-20 rule, parental principle. 80% is going to be new stuff. I didn't want to rehash. I didn't want Suicide Blonde Mark II. Suicide Blonde had a great run. We ended at a great place. The band was very popular, was very booked. Sadly, I had to put it aside. And I wanted to, when I got the urge again, it was like, okay, I want something totally different. And I want a totally different, so I went from blonde to redhead. Suicide Blonde to Rouge.
Come on, now, was that a thought?
It
just happen?
It just happened.
Really?
It just happened. I mean, I've always been inspired by, my wife's a beautiful redhead. And I've always been inspired by that.
Yes.
And when I was just thinking of concepts, to me, I look at it and I say, I've got to come up with a marketing concept. Marketing drives everything that happens. The marketing that we create, marketing by definition is creating a demand for your product. Marketing isn't selling. Marketing creates the demand. Marketing, whether they do commercials, radio ads, whether they this, that, whatever thing, marketing creates the demand for the consumer to consume the product.
Well, I want to get into that with you.
Sure.
Absolutely, because I have my own, I have my thoughts about that. And I also want to learn something.
Sure.
Because, you know, the one thing that I never did, I worked for Axe, and of course you know
did,
that.
absolutely.
I worked there for a time. And, you know, as important as it is, I think, for people to know what they're good at, it's equally as important to know what they're not good at. And I certainly, so I learned something there. No, I did. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was as valuable as any other thing I could have learned. Was what is my strength and what may not be. And so, you know, I've turned my strengths, I've turned to my strengths, and I've allowed my weaknesses to inform me, hopefully to the benefit of utilizing my strengths. So I want to get to that. But first...
It's really funny that because the way you said that, one of the greatest things is I've always tried. I've lost some great people that were employed by me because I basically told them they needed to do this.
Right.
I was never the petty kind of business owner that wanted to hostage a worker in. And I had identified strengths and weaknesses in people often through my life in a genuine, caring way, where I would basically say, you know what, this probably isn't for you.
Sure.
It's probably not for you.
I've done that with teaching.
Yeah.
And, you know,
with players.
Yeah, well, with
students.
Whether students, whether young or old. I've told them, you know, there's something you're good at. And you know what I mean? And if you can't sit down and give this what it takes, and you feel like you're trying too hard, then you're probably trying too hard. Don't try too hard. Take a look at the other things that you love, and there is something that you love. What puts you to bed at night and what gets you up in the morning? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And chase that.
The passion.
Right. Go after that. So I want to get to all those things, but first, I just want to go back, and you know, to me, and hopefully to people watching this, I think it's interesting. It will be interesting to know a little bit about where you come from, and you know where you're born, where you grew up. You know, I asked Andrzej the same thing, and of course I don't think you're from Poland, but
no,
right? Okay,
no.
So you won't share that commonality, but you came from somewhere.
I did come from somewhere.
Yeah. So
it was really far away.
So inform me.
Edmonton.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Born and raised.
You can't even take a bus there. So tell me.
Born and raised, parents. Farm parents. My grandparents came from the Ukraine, settled in, there you go, settled in Alberta, in Two Hills. My parents, my dad, my mom in Ranfurly, not far from there, the whole simple area. And
farmers?
Yep, farmers, absolutely.
Same with one. Yep.
Moved to the city before I was born. My parents did the relocate. They're in the city, and my dad went to work pumping coal into trains at CN, stuff like that, a laborer. And I was born in 1958, 61 years ago.
58?
Yeah.
You
50,
old bastard.
58, man.
You're doing pretty good.
Thank you.
You're doing hella good.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, continue.
So, young boy, born in 1958, saw the Beatles when I was 6. Didn't have a profound effect on me. The Beatles was something that, of course, I was slightly exposed to, but not huge like some people talk about it. I was too young. I was 6. I wasn't yet at that stage where I went, geez, I can do this. You know, so I was like, I came to music a little bit late in a sense. You know, school kid, good school kid. Found school easy.
What time did you start playing, or what age did you start playing drums at?
Funniest story in the world. Grade 8. I had picked up the old proverbial beating on ice cream pails and stuff when I was like 3 and 4.
Were you a tapper? Did you tap a lot?
Tap all the time. And had no real exposure yet. I'm a 3 and 4-year-old kid living in a sub-basement that my parents rented out, just the basement. And I'm hitting ice cream pails. I can remember all of this. And breaking the ice cream pails, getting new ones. We'd have to eat ice cream to get new ice cream pails. And,
I remember going through that process, man. And, I forgot about that, but
so it was really funny. Here we are, grade 8. Let's shuttle forward to grade 8. School came easy for me. I was a pretty happy school kid and did well in school. And grade 8, I went to play professional sports for the first time. My dad was never a guy who supported sports heavily for me, and in grade 8 I had never played on a team or anything. I took this challenge from a friend of mine to say, well, come out and try out for Bantam AA baseball, which he played on. Okay. And lo and behold, I went out and tried, and I got on the team. It was kind of a miracle, but I got on the team.
Right, you made the cut.
And I made the cut, and I was good enough from playing around the house in the fields and things like that. I made the cut, and the coach saw me as a potential. So I started, there we are, practices, playing, boom, boom, boom. One night, walking home from practice, we heard music, loud music coming from, we found out was a basement in a house.
Uh-huh. Which was the way it was done.
We walked up to the house, windows wide open, and there's a band playing. And it was like, bang, I want to do that, man. I've been playing pots and pans, and I left that, and I want to do that. There's that guy, he's playing drums, and I was just, wow, connected. And it was like, you know, but I'm playing baseball.
It comes from that, you know. I mean, I know you saw Angé's interview, or you know, our discussion last week, and you know, it came from somewhere with him, where there was this epiphanal moment. Yeah, an epiphanal moment where you just go, oh my God, that's it. And it's not of your own doing.
But I was playing baseball.
But it usurped it, it sounds like.
2 weeks later, I was riding my bike. I got yanked off my bike, broke my collarbone. Baseball was over.
Right.
Guess what?
Drums it is.
Drum looks really good. I want to do that now.
Now, what was it about why? Because you heard a band. You heard a bunch of people playing.
Heard everybody playing.
So why the drums?
Don't know. People have asked me before, why the drums right from the beginning? Why were you beating on pots and pans? Don't know. Innate something there. You know, I mean, I went on in my life to play guitars and keys and etc. and bass and everything, so I could write. But still to this day, my favorite instrument to play is drums. There's an innate, natural something to drumming and myself. So the decision was almost made for me. I was drawn to music, and I was pulled into it because there was my sports career gone. Guess what, Cymbaluk? You're going into music.
That's right.
And you know, and forget about the fact that you're doing well in school. It's music, baby.
So studied or self-taught or a combination?
Took 3 weeks of lessons and said, forget it. This isn't going to work for me.
Why?
Why? You know, the teacher was a decent teacher. He could, I don't know. It was way too slow for me.
School band?
No, this was like private teacher.
No, but a school. Were you in school band?
No, didn't do school band. It was I was out when it's really funny because it came quick. I was basically in grade 8, so I really didn't start playing till I was almost 14. At 16 3/4, I was in the clubs.
Were you really?
In grade 12, when I would have been in school band, I was playing 6 and 7 days a week. While I was going through grade 12. Well, going through grade 12, I made $12,000 in 1976.
How did you get in? How did they let you in the club?
I saw they didn't know. And all the guys
all the
guys that I was playing with were 25, 27.
Right. So you looked the part.
I looked the part. I was a big guy. I was like 5, almost 6 feet tall in grade 7.
Right.
I looked that way, and I stayed super clean, and I stayed in the corner, and I had never gotten in any trouble, and I was playing, dude, and I was playing with guys that were in their mid-20s, and I was growing up so fast, and I was learning, I was meeting all the players in town, and they were adopting me, like, you know, and I had a chance to talk to a good friend, Brian Gregg, who's, he's 10 years my senior.
It's a Calgary,
you know, Edmonton.
Edmonton still. Okay.
All Edmonton, and he was the guitar player in the band. And I said to him, hey, thanks for, you know, giving me that shot way back when. I was like 16, 17.
Right.
And he said, hey, you could play. He said, if you couldn't play, you wouldn't have the gig. He said, but you could play.
Right.
So I said, hey, well, thank you. And
did you feel like you caught on pretty quick to this?
I caught on really quick, and I was a real quick learner. Like I say, my first drumsticks and a drum set were like 13 and a half to 14, and at 16 3/4, I was in the clubs. A 3-year gestation period. I was obsessed.
So what did you work on in that 2.5 years? Or
what didn't I work on?
You worked on a lot.
I was a smart kid in the sense that I was analytical. Okay. So rudiments. In that 3 weeks of lessons, here's the rudiments. I learned my rudiments inside out.
Right.
You know.
So what paradiddles?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
Right through every one of them.
Oh.
I learned everything. I was good at schooling myself, thank God. And I was disciplined. I was practicing 8 hours a day. If you talk to my mom, who's hard of hearing these days, she blames me for it. But I was literally running home. I would practice before school. I would run home at noon and practice for half an hour.
Right.
I would come home from school and play. I would like practice all weekends. I remember I beat myself a bruise on my knee, purple, black, and blue, because I was playing on my leg while watching TV or whatever. Yeah, you got the scars, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was nonstop. Anything I've ever done, I've always been focused to the nth degree.
Right.
Like, it's like obsessive. It's like that's it. So I did the proverbial, I know it sounds cliche, but I did. I ate, slept, breathed drums and music. And so at 16 and a half, I was in the music store and plotting my gear and everything else. And there was an ad on a board, and I answered the ad. It was like looking for a drummer. Yeah, I'm tell us about you. Well, I wasn't going to tell them my age.
Sure.
And I showed up and I auditioned, and I think they were all like, because I mean, I was pretty baby-faced. I was a pretty young-looking 16. And so I'm sure when I showed up, they were like, in fact, I wasn't driving. They had to come pick me up.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
that's why guys used to give me their weed back when I was like 12, 13. I'm a little younger than you, but not that much. And then because I just looked like a baby, like I could do no wrong. And like, well, he's carrying the weed.
There you go.
You know, and I went to Ted Nugent that way and everything else. So I know what it means to have a baby face and, you know, have to put on airs. So,
but I did the audition, and they said, yeah. So, I mean, here I am. I'm in grade 11, I'm going into grade 12, I'm in a band.
Right. It's pretty cool.
I'm in a band.
I didn't start playing live till I was 2 years out of high school, 3 years out of high school. Yeah. I mean, I played drums since I was 6 months old, but...
Like physically, you actually made sense?
My parents told me I'd pull out pots and pans.
Yeah.
And put them around me and assemble them into a makeshift drum kit.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, you know, all I could do was crawl.
Yeah.
And play these things.
Yeah.
And then I think at 5 they got me my first, you know, the animal kit.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Sears animal, you know. And then 8 they got me a snare drum. Oh, and I trashed the animal kit within 2 days. 30 seconds, I think. I played it like this because I knew that this wasn't it. There was better than this.
Yeah.
So I trashed it and they didn't give me screw all until I was 8.
Yeah.
And I got a snare drum and anyway.
But even 8, that's great.
Yeah, so I got a snare drum at 8 and started, you know, working on rudiments, and then when I was 11 or 12.
And I should say, I was already playing in bands all through high school, grade 10 on. I was like, I'd be going to school. I was in high school. I'd be going to school during the day. I'd be going to pack groceries and do stocking shelves till 9 o'clock at a grocery store. I'd be going over to my rehearsal hall with a band at 9:30, and my dad would pick me up at like midnight.
Wow.
In grade 10.
Yeah.
And when I started, in grade 11, the band I was in my school in Edmonton, my high school, opened for Chilliwack in our school.
Really?
And let me tell you, that was on a Friday night. Monday morning, I was cool.
You were the dude.
I was cool, man.
You were the dude.
And you want to talk about getting that bug? Yeah. It's like Monday morning after your Friday, you're playing in your own high school, and Monday morning, all the girls are coming out. Hey, I loved your band. Saw you playing Friday night. The bug is set, man.
Right. I mean, it's enough to have that epiphany.
Yeah.
But then you get that epiphany.
You get that.
When the chicks are coming on.
Yeah, and so that was all through high school. I was in bands. And then at 16 and 3/4, I'm in the clubs while I'm in grade 12. And I'm making 12 grand back in 1976. Think about that.
So how much, this is an interesting, I think, thing for everybody to know. What were you getting paid per night back in 19 what?
Oh, you know what? Per night, it was 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
We played Monday through Saturday.
Right.
And what a great way to get tight. And our band was popular, so what happened?
What year?
76.
76.
This was mostly all through 76. We got on with the Army base, Greensboro Army base, which was in Edmonton. We were doing the sergeant's mess or the officers thing or sergeant's mess, and the infantry guys. Normally, one of those would get us every Sunday night. I did some 7-week periods where I played 7 nights a week for 7 weeks.
And
do the math.
Loving it.
49 days of playing.
Right.
It was 4 45-minute sets a night. This is how we became good, fast.
Yeah.
How many young guys today get a chance? They play 1 set.
Dude, it's Friday night or Saturday night now. It's not even 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, but they play. They generally, it's like a lot of them are 3 bands on the roster.
Right.
They play 1 set for 45 minutes, and how long does it take them to play 45 gigs? And let alone those were 45 gigs of 4 40-minute sets.
Well, I think it's an impossibility to get your performance, chops down playing 1 night a week.
It's not there anymore.
Playing 1 set.
Yeah.
Or less.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah. So you grew up. I mean, you grew up astronomically. I met all the musicians in town. We all knew each other. It was a great community, and so you grew up overnight.
Right. So my question though, how much were you making? If you don't mind divulging.
No, I don't. No, I don't mind. I'm trying to think. I mean, I never have thought the math, but I mean, I made 12 grand playing a lot. So I'm $1,000 a month.
Yep.
I mean, basically $250 a week. So $40-50 a night.
Right.
Yeah.
$40-50 a night.
Still what guys are making now.
It is. It hasn't changed. How much?
The joke is, guys are making $100 a night now, and they were making $100 a night in the 70s.
Right. Well, no, they said they actually. I read this thing. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, that if you account for inflation, you would be making about $675 now a night.
Yeah.
About $675 bucks.
Exactly.
If you were making $100 in 1970.
And that's what everybody's making.
Is $100.
Yeah. Isn't it something?
It is something. It's something that I think it's one of the problems. One of the struggles that musicians face, because I had this thought. This thought came to me. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, sitting around thinking about this, and I thought, when I was born into rock and roll. And that's the world I knew. Now that doesn't mean my parents weren't, like that. My parents were just, middle class.
My parents were country people.
Yeah, and they were middle class. It wasn't like I was born into rock and roll. I didn't come out with a mullet, No,
but you're in the times of rock and roll.
Right, I was born into the time of rock and roll. And for me as a child, and really, until I grew up and until I thought about this last week, in a sense, that's the world I knew.
Yeah.
So for me, especially as a young kid, I mean, not today, but as a young kid, I thought that that's the way the world had always been. That there was always rock and roll. Now, somebody might have told me, no, it's a construction of the 50s and blues. But, still to me, my experience was that this is the way it is for me. This is the way that it is for my world, and that my world is all I knew.
Well, your world is your world.
Right, and then when I realized, and it wasn't long, 6 months, but when I was cognizant, became cognizant and aware that I did this thing and that I loved this thing, rock and roll was the biggest thing happening.
Yeah.
And people were making money, and they were getting the ladies, and they were, what I mean? Everything was, looked good.
They were rock stars.
Right, they were rock stars, whatever that meant. I mean, it just meant that they were there and I was here, and there was something sacred about that.
Yeah.
There was something very sacred about that. So I think that's one of the difficulties that musicians face that grew up in this era, and that is that nobody told us that it was going to change. It didn't look like it was going to change. But if we look back on the history of the world, and of course you can't do that at 13, but when you said it at our age, you realize that the world has existed for a long time, and culture has existed for quite a while.
Absolutely.
On the planet. Certainly not as long as the planet itself, but it's lasted for a while. And the world has gone through too many phases to count, and too many, 100 or 50-year increments of something going on. And rock and roll, I think, in a sense, music and the proliferation of it was that thing.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't necessarily bourgeois, but there was an industry that was going to eat itself at some point.
Yeah.
And certainly has.
Certainly
has.
has.
It's eaten a couple toes, maybe a foot. And no, it doesn't have a leg to stand on, really, if we're honest.
I got to tell you a story because it's so cool. Because of the current biopic out there, the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody. The band that I was...
Don't get me started.
The band that I was talking about where I was in grade 12.
Yes.
That band, there was a magazine called Rock Scene magazine.
Okay.
And Rock Scene had it that if you sent in your 8x10 of the band and a bio and stuff like that, they put you in their new bands section.
Okay.
Here was my band. Here was Queen.
Really?
I swear to God.
So what happened?
And I wish I had that magazine today.
Something happened on the way to the office.
Something happened, yeah. But we shared the page. Here was my band from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and here was Queen, this new band from England.
That's something.
Isn't that funny?
That's something.
And I wish to this day, I wish I had that magazine because that's hilarious. Yeah, they got a little bit farther in the industry.
They did a thing or two.
Yeah.
And I really wish the movie would have shown that. But anyway, that's a topic for another day.
It's Hollywood, baby.
It is, yeah. I know that Brian May had a lot to do with it, and I know the drummer,
Roger Taylor.
Roger Taylor had a lot to do with it. And
they were very involved.
They were very involved. And to me, it just lacked a slight authenticity. It was a little too Hollywood and a little too safe.
I think tough to do it. But the guy, the Rami Malek, the gentleman who played Freddie,
did a great job. I mean,
amazing.
And
where his family, his sister said, I couldn't, it drew her to tears.
Right. Now, I didn't know Freddie Mercury. I mean, not a lot of people did, except the ones that did know him.
Yeah.
But to me, I think there was a little more. I think there was a little more dirt. I think there was a little more grit about the individual that, for me, would not have made me judge him incorrectly or wrongly, or to take him in the annals of history and think of this as a bad man.
Yeah.
It would have made me understand his humanity a little bit better.
Sure.
And I think that's what I just didn't get. It was a little too glossy.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway.
Short time, 2 hours.
What are you going to do?
They only have so much. And of course, at the end of the day, the movie has now made over $1 billion.
Right. It's pretty popular.
And they're talking about a sequel. I just saw that last night. Don't know how they're going to do a sequel, but...
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that.
Let's move on. But anyways, that was a funny thing from way back being a kid.
Sure, and right, and I'll tell you what, I mean, you were in good company because, you think about Freddie Mercury, and I mean, really, what other singer exists that was like that? None did, even in...
Singular, stands alone, amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And the whole band, Brian May had his own thing, and Roger Taylor had his own thing. I remember growing up going, I'll never play, what's the Friends? You're my best friend. I mean, I listened to that song, and I'm like, I'll never play that.
Yeah.
That's too hard. Oh my God, what's he doing? What's a drum roll? And just amazing playing. Bohemian Rhapsody. I had to play that on the ship. I had to play that on a cruise ship I worked on.
Wow.
In the orchestra.
Yeah.
And what a treat to play a tune like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
amazing.
Yeah. And just a great drummer.
This was an orchestral composition.
Right, and he had to orchestrate it.
Yeah.
This was not...
With the drum set.
This is what brought them into the height of their career.
Yeah.
So, they weren't getting help from the outside. They had to put this thing together, and a song like Bohemian Rhapsody, anyway.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. So, so what else? I mean, you get this thing beside Queen, and you just keep I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're about $50 or $60 a night.
I'd say well, 40, 50. If we use a mean average of around $50 a night.
Sure.
Yeah.
So where do you go from there? It's Queen, and it's...
Where do you go from there? That band was a cover band, but I quickly got into original stuff. I was in the next few years. I was in one band after another, being pulled from, we want you in our band, come play with us, and this kind of thing. I got into original stuff. In the early 80s, I was in a band. I joined a group of seasoned vets in Edmonton, and we formed a band called Famous Blue Raincoat, or FBR, that traveled right across Canada, played coast to coast, was at one time being courted by 5 different record companies, Tom Cochran, Kim Mitchell, a number of different people were going to produce us.
Really?
Loved the band.
Wow.
And we just couldn't quite jump over that hurdle. And one of the hurdles was everybody wanted us to give them all of our songwriting royalties. And we were, I think, some people would argue, we were stubborn about giving them away. I was actually acting a lot of times like the band's manager. And I remember sitting down with, I'm not going to name names to make them be whatever, but I think it was Capital. It was either Capital or BMG. We were actually, contract was in front of us, and having the discussion of, I said, okay, I understand recoupment. You guys are going to front us $250,000 to record an album with a named producer, make 2 videos, and give us some tour support, put us out touring in a van across Canada. I understand. There's money that you're investing in us. We're an investment. So you want all of our songwriting, publishing, etc., all of our royalties. How about you get all of that until recoupment? What's the chances of a Canadian band doing that? But in principle, until we recoup. So if we made enough money to pay you that $250,000 back, then we could now 50-50 on our songwriting royalties? Nope. Sorry, that's the way it is. We own your songs. No budging, and we didn't hedge. And
every company wanted ownership?
Basically every company. Unless it was a couple of small companies. Right. The independents.
You didn't necessarily feel we're going to get you.
When you started talking to the bourgeoisie, high-end record companies, it becomes almost opiatic, and it's like you're wined and dined and everything else to the nth degree. And it was interesting when we were the last tour to Toronto. Every time we toured, we showcased. We played the Horseshoe and the Bamboo and the Rivoli, all the clubs. I remember going into the Bamboo, and the night before we were in the Bamboo, Living Colour was there on their first tour.
No,
yeah. So things like that. And I met Will later. He did a clinic for acts. He did a clinic for acts.
Tremendous guy.
And I talked to him, and I said, and he said, I remember that. I remember playing at the Bamboo. That was a great gig. And I said, yeah, we were there the night after you. I said, man, I wish I would have seen you.
There's something about his memory, because he did a clinic here in Calgary.
Yeah.
And I asked him a question at the clinic. Which was something, frustrating for me at all the clinics I went to. People would ask sort of a great question, like, what do I do to do what you're doing? And he would say, and so he said, well, that comes out of syncopation. And I stood up and I said, syncopation is just pages of reading.
Ted Reed syncopation.
Yeah, Ted Reed syncopation. Yeah. There's got to be more to it than that. You just didn't sit down and come up with the conceptual element of that.
That was the building blocks.
And so he said, that's a great question, but I can't answer it right now because I'm doing a clinic. And I said, that's fine. He said, well, can you stick around? So I've actually got a picture somewhere of Will Calhoun and I standing, this is Mother's Music, standing around the front desk with about 30 guys. Yeah. And he's basically taking me through Alan Dawson's and Gary Chafee's approaches, right? Berkeley approaches to this, which I kind of went on to, study and start to get down. And then he did a clinic like 6 years later or 7 years later, and he was greeting people at the door, just the greatest guy.
No, fabulous guy.
Yeah, and I walked up and just to shake his hand, and, a little intimidated still, and he looked at me, he goes, Gavin? I'm like, yeah. he's like, man, do you remember that? Somebody sent me a picture, dude. And I'm like, you remember my name? Like, what's going on? I mean,
amazing,
just a genuine, such a genuine.
I've had the opportunity throughout those years, like the last tour I did with that band was all college and university. So right across Canada, we went from, it was really nice because our tour was Victoria, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. For some reason, we always pass over Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, et cetera, et cetera. It was all the major cities, and it was all the colleges and everything. So it was nice that I got to play that end of things. And college and university circuit's amazing. They're rabid for music, and they have a great time, and they love it. Mm-hmm. And this was all original music and stuff.
Certainly back then, that was the...
Yeah, it was amazing. And we were, we'd go to Toronto. It would be, let's go to Much Music. They knew us all by name. Mm-hmm. We played Canada Day.
Did you play Much Music?
We played Canada. Much Music was hired by the Canadian government to do Canada Day in Ottawa. In 1987, Much Music was to pick a band from each province, right across the country, and that each band got to come to Canada. I had my letter from Prime Minister Brian Mulroney inviting us to be part of Canada Day celebrations in 1987.
Tremendous.
We were right there.
At the Capitol.
We were right in the Capitol, in Les Bretons Flats, and playing to multi-thousands of people. It was amazing.
Wow.
There was a 2-hour show on Much Music about it. And so every time we'd walk into Much Music, we were like wined and dined. It was like, you know, you guys, we love you guys, and blah, blah, blah. So it was all to that stage. It was to that stage. And there was Samantha Taylor's video hits. We had released our own video. We weren't signed to one of the record labels yet. But because the talk was so good about us being signed, Samantha Taylor played an unsigned band's video on her show on CBC. So that was quite something. And, you know, so basically here we were, you know, mid-20s kids touring the country, having a time of our lives. We were playing Rockstar. But...
It sounds pretty...
Oh, it was really cool.
Like the time.
Yeah, and it was a great band, and it was progressive and very cool. People say what kind of, you know, Police meets Split Ends meets The Fix. A lot of the 80s music, but with a little bit of an edge and musicianship, U2.
Right.
And so we basically, the last tour we went and we did showcased, and one of the A&R guys from one of the companies, after the break, he said, he says, yeah, you guys are great. He says, you guys rehearse a lot, don't you? And I said, we take it very seriously. We want to sound like our record.
And it was all original at this point.
Yeah, all original. When you hear our recording, when you see us live, we want to sound like that. And he goes, yeah, maybe you shouldn't rehearse quite so much. And it was right when the whole Young Street, basically the Tragically Hip, the raw, rootsy thing was coming in, Cowboy Junkies, and everybody was a looser, rougher, sloppier thing on stage. And so the things were shifting, and I came back to Edmonton, and I basically said, well, I got to get a real career.
Right. And so why do you think the change? Why do you think why would anyone ever go from something quality? What do you think the motivation was to go from quality and excellence?
You'd want to keep changing.
Piss poor.
You'd want to keep changing.
Or
you want to keep changing the commerce of the dream, the business of it. You'd want to stay in the business. And for me, I couldn't do that.
No, but what was the motivation of a guy saying we don't want you too good, we don't want you too bad?
There was no motivation. It was the most deflating moment, I think, of my life. I was that night.
Right.
I had just played the Horseshoe to a packed house that loved the band.
But there had to be a motivation.
Yeah.
He had to say that for a reason. What do you think? Why would he say don't be too good?
It was almost like...
Was it that the people couldn't handle it?
You guys need to be a little bit rawer and a little bit rockier because that's what's coming in.
Huh.
You know?
So just not as precise.
Not as precise. And we were always very pristine, precise.
Right. But that's a kind of, I don't know, to me it sounds like a hit on excellence.
It was the most deflationary moment of my life. And I basically came back to Edmonton. And it wasn't long after that I basically said, okay, that's it. It had stymied that. And I didn't play professionally for 8 years. I started a career.
Wow. Well, and that's what I wanted to get to, and you got to it, so that's fine. I wanted to sort of understand what was the bridge between the career you had.
Well, I was always working in music stores while I was doing all of this.
Okay.
So I started working in music stores the fall of '79. So I was just out of high school for a year and a half. In the fall of '79, I started working in a music store. It's called Keencraft. It's now Long and McQuaid.
Keencraft, yeah.
I remember. And so I worked there for 7 years. And so these bands were happening all around that. So I was always working, and then we would take a 6-week leave of absence to go tour. So this was all happening concurrently. You're a mid-20s kid. You've got enough energy that you never have to sleep, and so you're burning it. Right. You're playing gigs. You're shooting videos.
That's why
you're on the road. You're working.
You're
whatever.
Yeah.
This is we'd look at that now and go, no.
Yeah, I can do.
But so you're doing everything. You're Superman, and you're driven by the dream and the passion, and you're on stage playing your music, and it's amazing and getting great responses and stuff. So there again, it's that opiatic thing. It's like a fix, and you want to get that fix. So you'll do. I remember one time we were doing a video shoot, and we had played 3 nights, the back 3, at a club. Till 2 in the morning every night. We packed up our gear on Saturday night after doing the 3 nights, and we were all working day gigs, and we had a shoot Sunday morning at 8 a.m. a video shoot that went for 14 hours. Wow. 8 a.m. till 10 o'clock that night. We shot a video that day for that band. But that video was the one they played on Much Music, on Video Hits, etc.
Right.
And somehow you went back to work Monday morning after all of that.
Because you could.
Because
you were 20-something.
Because you could.
Now we sit here talking about it. No, that's so.
And those were the days, and they were great days.
Yeah, but what about the commerce? So what about the commerce side of it?
Well, the commerce
was it just a realization?
The commerce was always there, and I was always the. No, it's funny, and I don't ever want to come across because it's not ego driven. In my schooling I was always good at school. When I took up an instrument, I was always very self-motivated and disciplined, and I didn't need somebody to. I didn't need somebody to teach me. I taught myself, and I was that person who would practice 8 hours a day. When I started working in a music store, I would show up at 6 a.m. I was a young kid living in my parents' basement. I was 18 and a half, 19 years old. I was living in my parents' basement. I'd go to work at 6 in the morning. I'd stay there till 11 at night, go home and sleep for 6 hours and go back. And I'd be recording and rehearsing and I'd be everything at that store, and I'd be changing the store around, but I also was learning every aspect. I came in and I'd sweep the floors and I'd merchandise the store. I learned how to do all the deposits. I would take the deposits to the bank. I wanted to learn. I was insatiable. I wanted to learn every last aspect of the business so that I could become more valuable.
Because you had a passion?
I had a passion for it. I had a passion for everything that I did.
Everything that you enjoyed?
Everything I did. If I did it, I enjoyed it. And if I enjoyed it, I was passionate.
And if you didn't enjoy it, did you do it?
I moved along.
Right.
Yeah, if I didn't enjoy it, I moved along.
Sure.
And so I wanted to learn every last facet. I was constantly the owner. I was like, so how do you do this? What do you do this? Then I started ordering product for the store. Then I started this. I learned in those first 7 years, it was formative for me. And one of the owners, a few weeks ago, I said to him, Chuck, I said, thank you. His name was Chuck Nelson. And I said to him, thank you for hiring me back in 79. Do you remember that young kid? He goes, like it was yesterday. And I said, thank you, because that was my formative years. I left that and the band and everything, and I was structured to now start managing stores. And then from management became eventual ownership. And etc. From those, it was leapfrogging from a few different stores. I took the opportunity when I had worn my welcome out, per se, at Keen Craft Long McQuaid. I went on to another store where I was the manager. And from that, I leapfrogged to going to Axe Music.
And was Axe already established?
Axe was established. Axe was started in 79, and I joined Axe in 89. Okay. And so basically, within a short time, I became the manager of the store. I ran the Axe Edmonton for 10 years. And I took a 4-year sabbatical because I thought I wanted to get into public service, politics. And I took a job with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. I was suit and tie every day. I was the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. And I got to meet all the politicians on a municipal level, a provincial level, or federal level. And after 4 years of that, I said, I don't want to be in politics. And thankfully, the two owners of Axe still wanted me back. And they said, well, you know what, we'd love to have you back. We need you. I was going into the store, 6 a.m., staying till late at night, learning every facet of the business. In 1989, I started at Axe. Within a couple of years, I was managing Axe, and I ran the store for 10 years. And I took a sabbatical for 4 years to go work at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce.
Now, was that the Axe on Blackfoot?
You have exactly correct.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, not in Calgary. No. Sorry, this was Axe in Edmonton. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was So I took a job at Axe in Edmonton.
Right.
And I worked there from 89 to 99. And in the fall of 99, I took a job working at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. I was the Director of Marketing and Communications. Axe had been really, really good for me, very successful. I had done very well. I saw the business grow quite steadily. I had managed through a renovation. We added a second floor onto the building, which is a bit nightmarish, but it worked, and we kept the store open all the while through it. And and grew business, which was an amazing thing.
Yeah.
All through the renovations. I was the manager. Yeah. I was an employee of the company still, but I was a general manager of the store. And so ran all the day-to-day operations, etc. And that's what I had always prepared myself for. I wanted to know every facet of the business so that when I got the shot, I'd have a chance to become a manager.
Yeah, sure.
And so that went very well. And I was entertaining public office. I was entertaining the opportunity to go into politics. And I took an opportunity that came my way to go to the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and become the Director of Marketing and Communications, which was a marketing position, sales position. I was in charge of ultimately what I hired to be a sales team of 6 people, selling memberships to the Chamber of Commerce. I did extremely well. It was quite lucrative for me with the deal that I had cut. It was very rewarding. It was rewarding to stretch my wings, to do different stuff, and I got to meet people at all levels of government, whether it be municipal government. I knew the mayor on first name basis, all the council people.
Now, can you explain the function of a Chamber of Commerce? What
a Chamber of Commerce? There's in Edmonton or any city Chamber of Commerce. There is a provincial, like an Alberta Chamber of Commerce, and there is a Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Okay. They basically, what a Chamber of Commerce does, it's a membership-driven organization that works for the members. The members pay a fee to be part of that, and we lobby government on behalf of business. So we are not a form of government, which a lot of people think. We are a lobbying organization that is funded through the membership of the members to represent their wants, needs, and desires at government. So if something happens, like the government wants to raise taxes, we would pick up arms, per se, go to City Hall, and we would insist on meetings with the mayor and council people to argue our case that taxes shouldn't go up like that for business on behalf of the businesses.
So is it kind of like a super PAC? Is it that kind of idea?
No, not really. It is
because you know the problem the U.S. Encounters with this. So absolutely. So what sort of money? I mean, was there any money underneath everything pushing? No. So is that the difference between the Canadian system and the American?
I would assume. Right. I don't know that much about the U.S. one, so I don't want to speak on it.
Right, sure. But we know that that's the problem.
So all revenue comes from membership.
Okay.
Memberships being the businesses in a city. And the businesses are, in essence, hiring us to be watchdogs for them.
Right.
And if something is alarming to them, business as a whole, taxes being one big thing, we go marching up to City Hall. We demand to talk to the mayor. We demand to talk to council people. Something that a lot of average people can't get an audience to do.
Right.
And we state the case of business. We argue on their behalf.
Okay.
That's what an effective Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce also stimulates the business economy. They hold meetings. Every year we do the mayor's luncheon. I would MC the mayor's luncheon every year. And in front of like 8,000 business people. I'd be up emceeing, etc., stuff like that.
Was there ever any? I know that obviously that's not its MO, but was there any padding of the wallet or anybody?
No.
You know what I mean? Could you do that? Was there ever any function in place?
No, it's a not for profit, and it's quite regulated. So not that I ever saw anything.
So it works.
I believe it works as long as the people in the organization work.
Okay. So you came back to ACT.
Fortunately, the guys missed me, wanted me. I had done well for them.
That's always a good thing.
And so they approached me and they said, well, what would you think about going to Calgary? Our Calgary store is underperforming. It's not doing anything like you had done with the Edmonton store. And since you left, the Edmonton store has been able to perpetuate itself. My assistant manager moved into my role. He became the store manager. So it policed itself in that respect. And so basically, it was doing well. Calgary was underperforming.
Right.
And so
if it would have had this music, it would have probably done better.
Yeah. So basically, they said, would you mind going to Calgary? At the time, no kids, no tie down like that. I said, you know what? Sure. I said, I think Calgary's a beautiful city. It's gorgeous. The mountains are close. etc., etc. I love the attitude I saw about Calgary. I had seen firsthand through chamber stuff I was involved in. Mm-hmm. I really liked Calgary's can-do, positive, affirmative. Edmonton seemed to want to take their time and meet a lot and really make decisions over a long period of time. Calgary had, from what I had been exposed to,
wanted to get the job done.
Wanted to get the job done more. There was a more, let's go. It was, Calgary was booming. It was the oil boom. This was like basically, you know, hey, 2004. 2004. Things were booming. Mm-hmm. And it was like everything happened much quicker here. Right. There was much more of a, oil and gas was huge. This was a white collar town. Calgary's a white collar town. Mm-hmm. And so everything was like, let's go, let's get things done. Money was flowing.
Right.
Money was like,
and you weren't just the manager anymore. Is that right?
Well, when they first tried to hire me, mm-hmm. it was to be an employee. I took the offer home, and just like I had been in Edmonton, mm-hmm. and I took the offer home, and overnight, and I looked at it, and I just went, nope. And the next morning, I said, guys, I said, thank you so much. It was a good offer, mm-hmm. and I said, but I'm done working for other people. I said, I did well by you guys. I made you lots of money. We were very successful when I ran the Edmonton store. Mm-hmm. I went to the Chamber of Commerce. My president, I made him look like a superstar. You know, mm-hmm. and his chamber had never done that good, and away we went. I made him look great, mm-hmm. and I said, I'm now going to do something where I do make myself look great. Wasn't that I hadn't gotten noticed, wasn't that I hadn't gotten remunerated nicely, mm-hmm. wasn't this, wasn't that. It was just that
you knew your value.
I said, I'm going to go do something for myself.
Right, and you understood.
And they went, whoa, 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 whoa. They put their thinking caps on. We came up with a share equity approach to me becoming a partner. It took, they had guesstimated it to be 10 years for me to become a full partner. Mm-hmm. Not a full partner, but a partner. And it ended up taking 6 years, 5 3/4 years. Mm. I had come to Calgary. I turned it around so well. We grew so well. We were doing extremely good business. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I had to move out of the old location on Blackfoot Trail. Right. I had to procure the new building. Mm-hmm. I had to build and design and build.
Was that an easy process to do that?
Oh, because I was working.
That building is huge.
I was working 18 hours a day for a year and a half.
Right.
Year and a half.
Huge building.
Yeah, the year I had.
Had you met your wife during that time?
Year and a half. That was the year and a half I had my son. My first son was born.
Right. Well, she's a very patient woman.
And I was working 18 hours a day.
Yeah, crazy.
We were at the Blackfoot store. Mm-hmm. I was over at the new store. It took a year and a half to do all the renovations. 21,000 square feet, huge building.
Right.
Quite expensive, $1.5 million mm-hmm. for the renovation. Yeah. And then we moved in. And that was in 2009. Yeah.
And how was that store?
At first, that store was good, but it was the best way to categorize the Axe Music Calgary store on McLeod Trail, the big one, mm-hmm. the one that we were in until we sold the business last year, was that it was an entrepreneurial risk that we probably shouldn't have taken. It was a big step. We went from a 10,000 square foot store on Blackfoot Trail to a 21,000 square foot store with a basement. Yeah. And it never quite paid for itself. It was mm-hmm. too big a building. Mm-hmm. We had done hey, we're entrepreneurials. We're entrepreneurs. What drives us? Mm-hmm. You know what drives us? To some degree, risk. Right. The reason we became entrepreneurs is we're risky. Mm-hmm. If you don't want risk, you go work for the government.
Sure. Why the 21,000 square feet?
It was just the building that became available.
It was.
Yeah. So we developed it all, and it's this big space. Mm-hmm. I mean, $1.5 million out of pocket cost of our inventory. All right. Didn't make it look that full. Uh-huh. It's expensive to run a business like that. Yeah. The sign that we put out front, the big video sign, that was $250,000.
Was it really?
Oh yeah.
That much.
So a lot of people don't realize that.
And the guitar, right?
And the guitar. Yeah. The guitar with the video sign. Yeah. That was $250,000.
$250,000 for that.
So anyways, to condense it down, it never truly paid for itself, but in the beginning, business was still booming in Calgary, and it was okay. Mm-hmm. It was okay. Right. Never did what we wanted, and it didn't do the business to completely cover the overhead of the new overhead, the expansion.
Sure.
But it was okay.
And you're saying business was booming.
Business was still good.
Music booming?
What was music? Yeah, music was still good. The first recession that it hit was 2008, the one that really hit the U.S. Right. And we didn't see that trickle effect till, I'd say about 2010, 2011. That's when we started to notice it. Right. So we moved into the store August of 2009.
Was that the S&L?
The new store.
The 2008?
I believe so, yeah.
The US, yeah.
That was the whole mortgage crisis and everything, yeah. And so we started to see the rumblings of that. We moved in the new store August of 2009, and we started to see, everything was good. Business was great. We had opened the store. We had a grand opening one day. We did $250,000 in sales one day. And our growth was good, and everything was great, and the numbers were good. But then around 2011, we started to notice the decline. Now, I believe the decline was a number of things. It was recessionary. It was things starting to falter, but it was also a change in the music industry. There's no question. Kids were not taking up music quite like they used to. Things were starting to ebb. And do
you think up until that point, up until 2011, they were taking music that seriously, or do you think?
Yeah, that there was they were. We saw things like we closed the store now, so it would have been basically 2018, May of 2018, the end of May, June, and so it's coming up on a year. And I had noticed for that last 5 years, so 2013, I had noticed a steady decline in the way kids were wanting to take lessons, the way, and we were noticing a change. But we were also the first guys who, back in 2004, when I came back to Axe, we were the first guys who started a web store. We had axemusic.com, and it became extremely successful. So every year we watched our web store growing exponentially as our brick and mortar stores. So the click and mortar online was growing exponentially. The brick and mortar was declining.
All right.
People were less apt to walk into your store. And if they were, a lot of them were showrooming, which was they'd come into the store and they'd talk to your sales guys. They'd try the gear out. They'd walk out the door on their phone and go bang, 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 bang. Where's the cheapest and when can you have it to me? That's called showrooming. Right. There was more of that. Well, we were an online store and we were selling right across Canada, doing extremely well. Yeah. But we noticed we were seeing the online component growing, the retail stores declining, which everybody has experienced. All right. That's universal. Global and universal. Yeah. And
so it's not only that, but it's hard to stock a store.
Let's look at the rise of Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's in the last 20 years.
Right.
To being one of the largest companies in the world. People love to shop online. They sit in the convenience of their home, in their underwear if they want, at their computer. Yeah. Well, they sip a pina colada and drink and eat a donut and order things.
Right, and you have places like Marketplace, Kijiji, things like that where people can.
That's the used marketplace, yeah.
Right, but they can get a used
absolutely
a good product.
And when times are tough, people shop on the used market a lot more because new stuff becomes cost prohibitive. Yeah, the used market flourishes. The second-hand market is divine,
and that is indicative of our current state of affairs.
Well, the current state of affairs. I mean, basically, if you think about it. Calgary went south almost 5 years ago. Oil and gas dropped. The joke when the crisis hit back 5 years ago, there was a joke. It was December, and the joke was, you've got $28. What would you like to do? Would you like to buy a barrel of Kentucky Fried Chicken or a barrel of oil? They were both the same price. Yeah. It had dropped from $150 a barrel to $28 a barrel.
And what was the catalyst for that?
I'd have to go back. I mean, it was a glut of oil. It was overproduction, a glut, much oil in reserve, and everybody was dropping prices to try to get their oil sold. Right. And basically, that was when everything that you hear on a day-to-day basis about Calgary facing today, all the troubles with getting oil to Tidewater because the pipelines are being fought. And then
is it part of it that people didn't want dirty oil that they could get?
Sure, and yet there's lots of studies, and the way Alberta does it, it's not just dirty oil. There's a lot of there are There are and there always will be Greenpeacers, and I'm not making a value statement or a judgment. They're fighting for their end of what they believe, and other people are fighting for it. Right. But it's been devastating to the Alberta economy, and more so to Calgary, because Calgary was head office central. Calgary was where most of the oil and gas was based, and this is where the majority of the layoffs have been. We have the highest unemployment rate. I heard recently, we were always second to, I think, Nova Scotia. Calgary had gone from being the place you go to get work 10 years ago to the place to not go to and people leaving because there was no work. We had the highest unemployment except for Nova Scotia, and if I'm not mistaken, the news was on the other day and I heard that I think Calgary now has the highest unemployment of any Canadian city.
Was it really?
Yeah. These are the provinces.
Brunswick.
Yeah.
The maritime provinces.
Correct.
Were hurting the most.
Yeah.
That is quite something, isn't it?
Yeah. So Calgary has the distinction of having the highest unemployment rate of anywhere in Canada.
When you think about the Heritage Fund and the fact that we could put money like that away for the citizens of our province to going to the least of the provinces.
The province of Alberta, but Canada as a whole, but the province of Alberta is the highest debt it's ever been. The city of Calgary, the same. Nobody's running balanced budgets anymore. These are tenacious issues.
All right. Absolutely.
These are tenacious issues, and in my self-imposed, semi-whatever, the way things went, my semi-retirement of sorts, I was always very politically active, very politically interested, but I'd become a bit of a watchdog, and I've been doing social media posts and
You've
things
been
like
speaking to that.
I've been speaking to that. I've been speaking to government on behalf of the people, and I've been asking government to try to watch some of the things they do. Watch the spending. Number one, watch the spending. We're leaving. I have 3 young children. I have my oldest is 11, my youngest is 6. We're leaving them a legacy of debt.
Right.
So we can
with a lack of hope.
We're functioning and we're doing things, but we're doing things on the backs of spending. The government keeps spending, but it's accumulating debt. Right. That debt load, the cost of carrying that debt is huge. The interest alone, and what that's doing for future generations.
And so you've been speaking to that.
I've been doing public posts and things like that, asking for the government, addressing it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, asking government to watch what they're doing. Please control your spending. It isn't the right thing to just keep increasing the taxes. People can't afford it.
Right.
Our city has been hardest hit. The highest unemployment rate of anywhere in Canada, the highest unemployment rate we've ever had per se. I shouldn't say that because I'm not sure about the past, but certainly in recent history, and we're spending. We're spending. Well, when the average common person loses their job or something happens, what do? They stop spending. They try to be conservative. They reduce their spending. Why don't our governments do the same thing?
It's interesting. I didn't know that one statistic, that Alberta was suffering worse than...
Alberta,
and I think
Alberta's been devastated. BC and Ontario are flourishing.
But I think in a sense we don't see... I haven't really noticed the effect of that. I mean, I've seen the effect to a certain degree with oil and gas and people being laid off, but I haven't seen...
You've seen the effect.
Well, I lived in the Eastern
You're a
provinces.
musician.
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely.
What's happened to the entertainment industry of Alberta?
Well,
Calgary?
we know what's happening. We know it's going down the tubes.
It's non-existent.
Right. Pretty much.
Those are side effects. Those are trickle-down effects.
Yeah. But I lived in Moncton, New Brunswick, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you could see the destitution of of a place like that. And maybe it's just longevity.
Well,
maybe the fact that they didn't have, jobs for a long time.
How do you feel now that we have a higher unemployment rate than them?
Well, I think anyone would feel concerned.
Yeah.
Would feel...
I'm concerned.
Right.
I'm concerned that I'm raising my 3 boys here.
Yeah.
This is Calgary, the land of hope, the land of plenty. It's not that anymore.
Right. No,
and this is why
certainly enlightening to me.
This is why you have the current government all of a sudden we're gonna take oil by rail car and get it out to sale. This is why you're starting to have so many people stepping in, but the federal government hasn't done anything.
Right. Right. And I was talking to somebody else recently about, the fact that people are objecting to the pipeline, yet it's probably one of the safest ways to transport oil in terms of, getting it to other locations. You talk about rail car, there's a higher risk.
They don't want the effects on it going through their country.
Right. Sure, but it's going through their country anyway on rail and on, different.
That's already been established. They don't have to do more clear cutting. They don't have to do that. They don't have to.
Yeah, but how big is that?
One of BC's things is their ports and stuff. They don't want them any busier.
Right. Right.
They don't want to get busier.
Okay. Well, that might be more.
These are heady topics, man.
Sure, and that might be more of a point than a pipe that isn't that big.
Yeah.
Just running through a piece of forest that
There are pipeline concerns. There are valid concerns. There are things that happen.
I get it.
And I'm certainly not going to speak as any authority on this.
Right.
I would let other people do that.
Right. It's just I know that the money that we possess in oil is not just necessarily good for us. It's been good for Toronto. It's been good for Ottawa. It's been good for Ontario.
We still send.
And that's why I wonder why
we still send billions of dollars to Ottawa every year to disperse out.
Right.
Yet we get nothing.
So why would they want to take that away? Is my point. Why would they want to kill that cow?
Well, remember, nothing. The oil's not making a lot of money now. There's too much in reserve. So what they're actually having to sell it for, they're not making a lot of money. So a lot of the companies aren't starting up drilling. They're not hiring and employing people. These are the changes. Calgary's going through a major transformation. And it's not ever going to be the same.
Right.
It's going to have to adapt.
Yeah. Like rock and roll.
Like rock and roll.
Yeah. In a sense, right?
Yeah. It has to adapt.
Yeah.
It has to find a new way to do what it needs to do. And in Calgary's case, it has to find a new way to survive. There's going to be diversification. I mean, there's even been extreme stories like a guy who was making $200,000 in oil and gas is now unemployed. His EI ran out. He's unemployed again with nothing coming in. And he makes an investment from savings to buy a food truck, and he's selling hamburgers in downtown Calgary.
Right.
But downtown, our office space is 1/3 vacant.
Right. Yeah.
It's 1/3 vacant. The taxes that used to pay is, I hope I'm correct, was something to the degree of $100 million a year or something, $85 or $100 million a year. Now, the shortfall of that has to be paid by the residential. People with houses, our homes. We now have to start paying more taxes to make up for that.
Sure. So we know the facts of this. What do you think, in your estimation? Because you know more about this than I do. So
well, I believe that we need.
What do we need to do?
We need a radical reworking of City Hall, and City Hall are our employees. The mayor and council are hired by us. We elect them to represent our interests. We pay for it through our taxes. They're our employees. And they need to get back to fiscal management that is not spending, it's efficiencies, it's cost cutting, it's cost savings. It is running it more like a business has to run. When you have something like City Hall and the operations of a city, and when things go up in price, all City Hall does is raise our taxes to make up for it. Well, that's not the way that any business works. If I'm running my business and all of a sudden it's costing me 10% more to do my business on a yearly basis, I can't raise my prices 10%. Well, that's what they do with taxes.
And so why is that done? Why can they do it, I suppose?
They have the power.
Right.
We hired them to set our taxes every year. But wouldn't everybody be happier if they were putting our taxes down? Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, every year. And right now, we have a major problem brewing because of the disparity between business and residential taxes. In the boom times, Calgary's business sector was paying almost 60% of the municipal tax base, and residential is paying 40%. It's now shifted to about 55-45%, and now, to be fair to business, it probably has to go back to 50-50, and so that means taxes are going up for houses and residential exponentially. They're facing that right now at City Hall. They've been talking and discussing it the last 2 weeks. It's a huge issue.
All right.
that because businesses are paying too much of the tax burden. Business is not good in Calgary right now. It's tough.
Right. And so what you're saying is that's going to what? That's going to affect a lot of places, but infrastructure being one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, if we don't, the taxes have to be paid somehow. Everything we do in our city is paid for by taxes. So the tax money has to come from somewhere. Or you have to start cutting things. But I think...
What do you cut?
Well, that's the discussion. That's what government has to discuss. And with the input of the people they work for, their constituents, whether they do it by plebiscite or vote or whatever, there has to be a means that they all become united. But the biggest thing is we need to get a city council that starts to realize that we have to become more cost efficient. We have to close our wallet, quit pulling it out of our pants so much and spending money. We need to start looking at ways of saving money at City Hall, because...
Wasn't there some discussion about a new saddle though? Wasn't that...
It's happening.
It is happening.
Yeah.
So it actually passed?
I think it's on to further discussions.
Right.
Yes, they gave it the green light to continue talking.
In the province that is the least...
In the city with the highest unemployment rate.
Right. Interesting.
I hope that when I heard that recently, I know we were number 2. I know Calgary was at number 2, but I'm positive when I had the news on last week, it said that we're now number 1 for highest unemployment rate.
You know, these are engaging topics. I want to talk a little bit about, go back to Axe and just, just find out what happened there. I mean, we know it closed, and I'm wondering what the process was for that. What happened?
Axe was a funny conundrum because we were certainly noticing a shift in the dynamic of business. We were very strong in our web store, but of course the world has been gravitating to web sales. It took time for it to be comfortable, but what happened on the web? See, I've been shopping on the web for now almost 20 years. I've been an Amazon customer for, I think, 17 years.
Right.
I fed the demon, I fed the enemy. But in some respects, because then Amazon started to try to carry musical instruments.
Right.
So they were a competitor. Again, I was buying stuff from them.
It was only a matter of time.
I've always been a forward-thinking guy in terms of technology and stuff. So I was one of the earliest guys. I was a beta tester for CIBC for online banking 35 years ago or something.
Right.
And I was paid $100 a week to do that.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Not a bad gig.
I knew the general manager of a CIBC, and he hooked me up. And as long as I used online banking and I reported back to them on a weekly basis what I was finding out using it, every week $100 would be deposited in my bank account. It was great. Great gig.
How did you land?
It was almost
How did you land that?
It was almost as good as playing as being in a band.
Sure. How did you land the gig?
My friend was a customer of the Axe in Edmonton, was a manager of a CIBC. And he said, "Hey, are you pretty tech savvy?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, we're looking for beta testers." It was that simple.
Just like that.
Just like that. I did that for almost a year.
Friends in low places.
There you go. And so basically, I did that. Yeah. But I was never phobic of things. So I was shopping online years ago. Blah blah blah.
And you
blah,
didn't
blah.
see it could have become a concern.
Yeah. Well, what happened? No, I didn't think of it in that respect. Sure. Or I was always looking at opportunity. Right. Like I say. That was like 20 years ago. So we're talking like 1999. Well, when I came back to Axe in 2004, we opened up an online division.
Right.
I was one of the major proponents that said, we need to get online. I see it happening. I'm using it. So we opened up this online division, and we were seeing the change in the dynamic. And so what happened to Axe? We had taken an entrepreneurial risk in Calgary with the big store, which was probably, in hindsight being 2020, we shouldn't have. It was too big of a leap. Yeah. Especially the way we didn't know at the time, but the way online shopping was going to grow and brick and mortar was going to decline. When we finally sold and closed the Calgary store, 21,000 square feet, we could have been fine with 10,000 square feet. It was more of a burden to try to make the place look full.
Right.
The sales that you had walking through the door wouldn't justify the amount of inventory. You know, inventory is graded, judged by how many turns a year it does.
Right.
6 turns a year of your inventory is very good.
Sure. So if we summarized, if you can do such a thing, summarize the difficulties that the business was facing, what would those issues be?
It was funny because the business was facing some difficulties and some wonderful things. Mm-hmm. Our online store was growing exponentially, booming. Mm-hmm. Our brick and mortar stores were facing challenges. Like all the brick and mortar all over the place, huge challenges getting people through the door. Mm-hmm.
In Calgary.
People are getting more comfortable.
In Calgary necessarily?
Oh, well, Calgary all over the world.
Sure, yeah.
Brick and mortar is declining.
But
people are going online.
Right, but for Axe Calgary, was that because
Axe Calgary and Edmonton?
And Edmonton.
Yeah, we noticed the same shift. Right. And so to backtrack for 2 seconds, mm-hmm. I had been shopping for years on Amazon, mm-hmm. and we had seen the effects. We had seen the effects of Amazon growing. We were watching things, but we got in early, you know. Yep. But so we were seeing these things happen. But so here we are. We've got an online store. It's doing very well. axemusic.com is doing wonderfully. It's a diamond. It's valuable. Mm-hmm. Our brick and mortar stores are starting to suffer. But in May of 2017, the biggest change for me was I got diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Right.
So that was a huge thing. We were coming up to the renegotiation of our lease in the Calgary store. It didn't make fiscal sense for us to have that store anymore. Mm-hmm. We were going to have to move and go to a smaller space. Mm-hmm. And I had, in the month that we were renegotiating, it was 1 year to our lease being up, May of 2017. Our lease was up May of 2018. That month, I was in to the doctor for a physical. Your PSA's high, which eventually became I did have prostate cancer. Had to undergo a 1.5 years of hormone therapy, 2 rounds of radiation, etc.
All right.
The reason I sit here in front of you today, getting healthier every day, is a testament to our health system and the doctors and the nurses who took care of me, and I thank them tremendously because hopefully I'm going to be here for my sons to grow up. Mm-hmm. And but right when that was happening, okay, we got to move stores. And I said to my partners, guys, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. I said, the last time we built a new building, I was here 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I only had 1 child. Mm-hmm. I got 3 now. And I'm fighting cancer. So we made a decision to close the Calgary operation.
Right.
We said we've got to move anyways.
Right. So let's get down to that because that's something that I kind of want to unpack a little bit because we talked a little bit about this and in terms of your success, you were doing quite well for yourself and I know you. I know the kind of guy you are, and I know that you've always possessed a certain, a great understanding of things that are above the temporal, in that sense. But going through what you went through, there had to be some sort of maybe deeper understanding.
Now, when you say going through what I went through, which part are you referring to?
I mean the closing of the store and the diagnosis that you received.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well,
so you that must have served you something in terms of I don't know how to say it. Maybe an enlightenment or an understanding of
huge enlightenment.
Yeah.
Huge rejuvenation of your priorities, of what's really truly important. Mm-hmm. Everything did become much closer because you stop. I mean, I had the store. I had a very successful band in Calgary, Suicide Blonde. Yeah. Very successful band. Mm-hmm. Was in its 9th year at the time. As much gigs as I wanted for good dollars, I had. Mm-hmm. I had to shelve that. Mm-hmm. I was closing the store because we were going to close the Calgary store because regardless, we said, we've got to move. Mm-hmm. And I said, guys, I can't do it. So unless one of you wants to come down here and do that, I can't do it.
Right. You probably didn't have.
I have to heal myself.
Right. You probably didn't.
Oh no, I didn't have the energy at all. And so I said, I can't do this. I have to heal myself and hopefully survive this. I didn't know if I was going to live or die at one point. And so hopefully I'm going to survive this, but I can't do any of that. So let's close the Calgary store. And if I'm healthy and ready to go in a couple of years, we'll reopen a store. We have to move it anyways. It was always a thought. But in that time, my partner, the main president, Brian Olowachuk, had discussions with Long and McQuaid to the tune of what can we do to something? What can we make happen? How would Axe just disappear? And a deal was struck, and it certainly wasn't a hugely lucrative deal or anything, but we gave all of the staff almost a year's notice.
You did.
9 months.
I was wondering about the staff too, because I knew some of those.
We moved up. We got out of the store at the end of May. I had given everybody notice 9 months in advance. Some people said, well, why are you going to do that? I said, because we want everybody to know. And we did our best to help everybody get a job. We paid all our bills. Nobody was left hanging. We did it all really gracefully, really what have you. Everything was done above board. Nobody can say they were cheated. Nobody can say they were short-handed, etc., etc. Everything was great.
Right.
We did it very ethically, very morally.
Everybody left with
we feel good.
Everybody left with a good feeling.
Yeah. And sadly, it's not where you want to be at the end. Sadly, didn't leave any of us as, independently wealthy millionaires.
Did it leave you with any sense of defeat?
I think that if I hadn't been diagnosed with cancer, which not only was the immediate of the 2 years of treatment, but I understood now why the last 2 years before that, I was being fatigued. I thought I was getting old, but I was finding it hard to even it got to the point where I was finding it hard to get through my 8 hours at work because my body was fighting cancer. I thought, well, God, you're almost 60. And I was thinking, well, this is what aging's about. I've heard people talk about it for years. That wasn't what
so how's that going now?
Well, that's going great. I mean, I literally went through all the treatments. It was treatments I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. When I was diagnosed, finally got to the heart of the matter, and we found out where I had 2 tumors on my prostate. Thankfully, it hadn't spread anywhere in my body. It was located on the prostate, and it hadn't even decimated the prostate. Sometimes the cancer can eat 50, 60, 80% of the prostate. Mine was very minuscule, and it was on the very top.
And so what do you mean when you say that you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy?
The treatments that I had to undergo, I opted for not anywhere near the easiest treatments. There were a couple of what I call boutique treatments, which was you go in for a day. One is a thing called brachytherapy, which is radiation implants, which I did end up having as my 3rd phase. Okay. But you can go in to just do that, and hopefully it might work. But it's a 1-day operation. Chances are it's not going to for somebody who had my PSA count. Right. So ultimately, in talking to all the doctors, the specialists, I said, what's my best route? And they said, you should go for they do a 3-fold approach. It's called a trimodal. You start hormone therapy for a year. You get targeted radiation for a certain amount of sessions. In my case, it was a solid month. Have to go to the hospital every day and get shot with radiation.
Every day.
And then 6 weeks later, when I healed from that, I had to go in and get brachytherapy, which was radioactive implants put right into your prostate to help kill the cancer from the inside out. Yeah. My most recent doctor's visit in January, 5 months after everything had finished.
Sorry, I want you to answer that. You said that you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy.
The treatment program? When I was finished, everything at the end of August 2018, so I started August 2017. When I was finished at the end of August, my body, I had lost 1.5 inches in height because it affects all your bones, your ligaments, your tendons. I had no energy whatsoever. I live in a 2-story home. Every day I had to contemplate how I was going to get to the 2nd floor to go to bed.
Were the treatments themselves painful?
Not painful in this direct sense, like ouch. They were debilitating. the hormone therapy ravages your body, makes you weak, strips your body of your muscle. Like my muscles that are coming back now, where I can feel a bicep and my arm is starting to get taut again. That all went away. Because all your male androgens, your male hormones are being stripped. Everything that makes you genetically a man, makes you stronger, is being stripped from your body. So you become very weak. And so every step you take, every joint hurts.
Sure. Did that do anything? Because, you know, I've known you as a pretty mentally, emotionally strong guy. Did that do anything to your emotions?
Thankfully, I kept I think part of my success was, and people said, my positivity didn't wane. I kept my emotional state high, I kept my positivity high. I was going to beat cancer. There was no chance it was going to get me. And so that's the way I was at work almost every day. Either I would get my treatments prior or post. I was at work every day. I saw the store through closure. And I will say that the last month of the store closing, the effect that the amount I had to be pulled into things, just about probably killed me in a certain way. I was beyond fatigued. You know, the store closed the end of May 2018. I'd say that June and July I did nothing but recuperate to get back to some semblance of just being human.
Right. And how do you feel now?
Well, much better.
Yeah.
My strength is coming back. I can feel all my muscles rebuilding. Apparently, they say my height's going to come back because my bones are going to get strong again, and they're going to straighten out.
Right.
I thought I'd lost that inch. So everything's starting to feel better, and just when your bones are all compressing and everything, the stress and things it puts on you. Like we go through life, and our discs and our back start to compress, and you know all this problems we can have with that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, this all happened to me overnight, in a year. My body just went like this.
And you could feel that.
Oh, everything ached.
Yeah.
Like beyond belief. And I'm still recuperating, still hurts a lot, but I can physically function. You know, like you and I are sitting here. I was up this morning at 5:30 to take my kids to school.
Right.
It's now 11 o'clock at night or something. I'm fine. What you hear in my voice, I don't have a cold. I don't have laryngitis. I had almost, for the best part of it, I had lost my voice quite heavily by the end of the hormone therapy. It had me squawking like an adolescent teenager.
Right.
Because it infected the vocal cords so heavily.
Right.
There's no
and the lack of...
Now, from being a guy who was in a band, was singing for a good chunk of the night, leads, vocals, singing backups, the rest. I fronted the band most of the time from behind my drum kit.
You probably increased your range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To a guy who doesn't have a voice.
All right.
To a guy who likes to talk as much as I do. Didn't have much of a voice. So that
was that lack of testosterone? Is that what that was?
Lack of male hormones.
Lack of male hormones.
Just like when our male hormones are coming in, and our voice goes from high pitched to low pitched, and everything happens. I was going through those changes.
Right.
There's no guarantee my voice will ever come back.
This was the Benjamin Button of that.
Yeah, I might be sort of Clint Eastwooding for the rest of my life. I might have this hoarse gruff.
Hey,
some women love it.
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
It's Clint Eastwood, man. Don't knock it.
You know.
So where are you at now? You feel good, and you got.
I'm getting better all the time.
Yep.
The doctors have given me for now a clear bill of health. They won't declare me cured for 5 years.
Okay.
Until I'm showing nothing, whatever, for 5 years, they'll say, Mr. Cymbaluk, you're cured. Right. For right now, I am looking great.
And how often do you go into?
This time I'm up to a year. Yep. I don't have to see them. I go every 6 months for a blood test, and I don't see the doctor for a year, unless, of course, the blood test shows something happening, and I could be called in. Right. So I'm getting stronger. Everything's great. My family has been amazing. Right. My wife was the rock that you hear, the cliches of it. Amazing. Right. I can't say enough. Right. You know?
A solid foundation.
Solid foundation. My kids we brought our kids into it. They were at the hospital with me. They understood the process because the doctor said to me, he said, the minute your kids are 40, they're in every year for an annual PSA test because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. My dad had it.
Yeah.
His brother had it. I had it. My brother won't get tested. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Even though we've all whatever.
Yeah.
And the chances are that my sons are all going to have it or have a very good hereditary chance of getting it.
Well, in what? In 30 to 45 years, there should be more going on.
We hope.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we brought them into the process of education. So here I am, semi-retirement. Unfortunately, no, I'm not liquid enough to be retired, and my wife is going back to work. We were lucky enough to, through my convalescence and healing, to do some renovations in our house at my own pace, which was some days pretty slow. But the greatest thing that I think some people didn't understand, one of the greatest things in the world that I did was renovate this house to more of what we wanted. Because when I was healing, I had a purpose. I had a passion and I had a purpose. And there were days that I dragged my body from out of bed down the stairs to take my kids to school and to renovate my house. And there were days that it was unbelievable, the pain. But the fact that I had a passionate purpose gave me the strength to go on. And that healed me. Because the worst thing you can do is sit.
Sure.
They want you to be active. They want you to exercise. They want you to do stuff like that. So
would you have considered yourself, or would you consider yourself a budding interior designer? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Of course. In my usual,
no, that's great. I love that.
Usual confident way.
That is the feminine side of it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I had all white leather. I had Shays. I had, I had Barcelonas. Yeah. And, that's, I love that stuff. I love that.
So where are we today? I am still convalescing and healing. I will be for a long time. The radiation in my system is active for about another 12 months. I carry a blue card because if I go to the airport, I will register. And if I was to go into the U.S., they would pull me aside. And if I didn't have my radiation card that said I had implants done, they'd be going deeper in the why are you,
Right.
Hang on
to that blue card.
I'm starting to make music again. The most important thing is I'm playing again.
Right.
I am back playing drums, something I've done for 45 years. I couldn't do it for 6 months.
And that's got to feel good.
I couldn't do it for the better part of a year.
It's got to feel good.
It feels amazing. Yeah. I've got a new band. It's given me a passion to get energized. I'm devising, I always did drum builds, like a new set for the bands.
Right.
I'm building a drum set. And planning it and getting the parts and building it, the physical aspect of building it, and I'm playing every day and I'm building up my strength and I'm going to be out playing. The band's already booked for this September 2019 will be the Calgary debut of Rouge.
Great. And I know I don't have to say this, but let us know when that is.
Oh, you will know.
Where that is.
You will know.
That's why I said I probably don't have to say it, but let us know because I would personally like to come and check that out.
Yeah, it'll be there. It'll be all over the social media airwaves, etc.
Yeah.
And life is feeling great.
Good. Let's leave it at that. And I appreciate you guys. I hope you appreciated this conversation with a great guy and a guy with a lot of insight. I sat back learning a lot of things, and I appreciate it. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.
And we'll see you guys next week.